हरे कृष्ण।
हरे राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी। यशोदानंदना व्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज विहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानंदना व्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जय प्रभुपदा 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 जय प्रभुपदा। जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव। जय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल।
Washed over and told the guy, not today.
ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं समपितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तुते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वती व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भवद्वेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नाइसिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकीनन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमः पङ्कजनाभाय नमः पङ्कजमालिने नमः पङ्कजनेत्राय नमस्ते पङ्कजाङ्घ्रिये। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्यनामिने गुरुतिशे नमः। नमो ब्रह्मण्याय देवाय गोब्राह्मणहिताय च जगद्दिताय कृष्णाय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okam karoti vachalam pangam langayate girim etpipatam namo deshi guru dinitharini. Shri Paramananda Madhuram, Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram, Omo Pavitra Pavitra Va Sarva Vastam Gato Bhava, Yes Hare Nare Kaksha Sava Hyavendram Suche, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu. Hare Krishna. Let, let me mute. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji and Mataji. Thank you all for joining for yet another Bhagavatam session. Today we are seeing the 16th chapter of the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. King Chitraketu meets the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna, Padmamataji, Dandavad Pranam. Thank you so much for joining today's session. Hare Krishna, Lilananda Prabhu, Dandavad Pranam. Thank you for this opportunity.
Hare Krishna Prabhu Dandavad.
Hare Krishna, JJ Rao Prabhu, Dandavad Pranam. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Silpa Mataji. Thank you so much for scheduling
Hare
today's
Krishna,
session.
Hare
Hare Krishna Prabhuji
Hare
Dandavat Pranam.
Krishna, Mandala Mataji, for joining today's session.
Hare
Usha
Krishna
Mataji,
Dandavat Pranam.
Parishija Mataji, Abhishek Prabhu, Dandavad Pranam. Prashanti Mataji, Dandavad Pranam. Sujata Mataji, Dandavad Pranam. Subara Prabhu, Dandavad Pranam.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
Baranesh
Krishna
Prabhu, Dandavad
Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji.
Pranam. Hare Krishna, Padmavati Mataji, Dandavad. Thank you so much for joining. So let us start our session. So for the last few sessions, we have been seeing how the story of the Vritrasura and how Vritrasura was a conversation between Vritrasura and Indra. How Vritrasura was slayed by Indra. Vritrasura reaches back home, back to Godhead, and we have started the flashback of Chitraketu Maharaj. How Chitraketu Maharaj was longing for a son. He marries around 1 crore wives, but his wish could not be fulfilled. And by the grace of Angira Muni, I think Angira Muni. Okay, so he gets a child by the name Harsha Shoka. But unfortunately, because of the envy of the other 1 crore wives, the Harsha Shoka was killed. And you see how Chitraketu laments the loss of his dearest child. So this is the result of attachments in this material world. So when we are attached to this material world, to any object or a person or any lovable item, there are two things which are going to happen. One is either we go away from that lovable object, or that lovable object goes away from us. This is going to happen in this material world. Time plays a very important factor, is a crucial factor. It takes us away from our lovable things. If we are attached to that, we will be lamenting like Chitraketu Maharaj. And we see Narada Muni comes over there, and he asks the soul of Harsashoka to come back, but temporarily to come back into this body. And we see the different instructions given by the Jiva. That is still going on over here. So today we will be seeing the first 16 slokas of this 6th chapter. Text 1. See, there are only in this first 4 there are no purports. The purports start with the text number 4. So we'll recite the sloka and the translation. Shri Bhadarayan Vacha Ata Devarshi Rajan Samparetam Naprajitam Darshayetva Hovacha Natinam Anusochitam. Translation purport by His Divine Grace S. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Sukadev Goswami said, "My dear King Parikshit, by his mystic power, the great sage Narada brought the dead son into the vision of all the lamenting relatives, and then spoke as follows. Sri Naradam Vacha, Jivatman Pashya Badram Te, Mataram Pitaram Chate, Suhrudo Bandavas Tatta, Suchavata Pritaya Vrisham." Sri Narada Muni said, "O living entity, all good fortune unto you. Just see your father and mother. All your friends and relatives are overwhelmed with grief because of your passing away. Kalevaram swam avishya sesham ayu suhrutrita bhunksva bhogan itram pratan aditista nrupasanam. Because you died untimely, the balance of your lifetime still remains. Therefore, you may re-enter your body and enjoy the remainder of your life. Surrounded by your friends and relatives, accept the royal throne and all the opulences given by your father. Jivamuvacha kasmin janmani ami mahyam pitaro mataro bhavan karmavir brahmaya manasya devatriyanru yonisu. By the mystic power of the Narada Muni, the living entity re-entered his body, dead body, for a short time and spoke in reply to Narada Muni's request. He said, according to the results of my fruitive activities, I, living being, transmigrate from one body to another, sometimes going to the species of the demigod, sometimes to the species of the lower animals, sometimes among the vegetables, and sometimes to the human species. Therefore, in which birth were these my mother and father? No one is actually my mother and father. How can I accept these two people as my parents? But here it is made clear that the living entity, living being, enters a material world. That is like a machine created by the five gross elements of the material nature: earth, water, fire, air, and sky, and the three subtle elements: mind, intelligence, and ego. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, there are two separate identities called the inferior and the superior nature, which both belong to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. According to the results of the living entity's fruitive actions, he is forced to enter the material elements in different types of bodies. This time, the living entity was supposed to have been the son of Maharaj Tirketu and Queen Kritaduti, because according to the laws of nature, he had entered the body made of by a king and the queen. Actually, however, he was not their son. The living entity is the son of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and because he wants to enjoy this material world, the Supreme Lord gives him a chance to enter various bodies. The living entity has no true relationship with the material body. He gets from his material father and mother. He is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, but he is allowed to go through different bodies. The body created by the so-called father and mother actually has nothing to do with the so-called creators. Therefore, the living entity flatly denied that Maharaj Chitraketu and his wife were his father and mother. Hare Krishna. So this is a very ground-shaking purport given by His Divine Grace S.A. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. If we carefully understand this purport, it creates detachment in all of us. So Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, the third chapter to chapter, renunciation, speaks about renunciation in action. So everyone should be detached. So recently, there was one session going on in our class, sorry, in our office. So he was speaking about something related to stress. So why are we stressed? Because he was giving in a material way of class. But he was touching upon the point that the stress is due to the attachments which we hold in our life. He says, either you are attached to your positions, name, fame, or everything. Because you are attached, we will be getting stress, all the stress in our life. So what should we do? We have to start detaching ourselves from this material world and start attaching to the ritual. So or through Krishna conscious activities. So here we see Narada Muni was a great devotee. He knows what is happening in the Chitraketu's life. Not that he doesn't know. He knows that once the soul leaves the body, how does it we know that how does a soul takes up a body? Based on the karma daiva netrena, based on the karma of these activities we have seen in the Yasa sessions. So the karma session. So based on the karma of the living entity, a living entity takes on the body made up of 8.64 million species of life. We have seen that in stores for example. It takes on one egg. So once it accepts a type of body, it goes into the specific womb of a mother. It goes into the specific womb of a mother through the process of intercourse from the husband and the wife. The living entity takes the shelter of the womb through the semen of a father. And when these two unite together and emulsifies, it forms a body. Who is giving that body? So there we know that in this material body we have two things. One is matter and other is spirit. Spirit is a part and parcel of Krishna. So it is always a servant of Krishna coming from the spiritual world. But due to certain reasons, it fallen into the material world. But Jiva, nobody can create. He says, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, never was there a time that I didn't exist, never was a time that you didn't exist. So living entity is always independent, individual. It cannot come in from into being. It always exists. So there is no question of creation of a soul. The matter is also an energy of Krishna, the external energy of Krishna. So mother doesn't create a body. She gives a shelter to the body, but she does not create a body. But who is the owner of this matter and the spirit? If you clearly understand, it is Supreme Lord Sri Krishna himself. But the soul, when it enters into the body and it comes out as a child, because of the three modes of the material nature, it thinks that it is this body. We think that we are this body, and we forgot our real identity. When we are attracted to our body, we think that this is my father, this is my mother, these are my relatives, these are my friends. All these things are on the body level consciousness. So last Sunday, when Lilananda Prabhu was discussing about the friendship and the enemy related things, a devotee doesn't think about this is my friend or this is my relative. That's what Prahlad Maharaj was saying. This friendship and enmity is all on the body level consciousness. So we are all Jivera Sarupahai, Krishna. We are all related as a souls, as servants of Krishna. But we falsely identify with the body. All your friends and relatives are overwhelmed with grief because of your passing away. But one day, you all have to pass away. This is going to happen. Whether we stay for 100 years, 1,000 years, whether because of the scientific advancement, you may live for more than 1,000 or 1 lakh years. But one day we are going to go, we have to go, we have to leave this body. Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punar Avarjuna Arjuna. Krishna says, so wherever you go, till the Pata, from the Pata Loka till the Brahma Loka, we are all going to face this Janma Mrityu Jara Vyari. But the longevity may increase. If the longevity increases, we tend to forget, "No, I have a long time." Even in this material world, when we are here, how many of us think that in the next moment we are going to die? None of us. So by hearing this lecture also, we are all trying to planning for the future. After 30 years or 60 years, what am I going to do? So we don't think about we are going to die. We are not going to think, we are not thinking that even in by chanting holy names, we did not get that sufficient conviction. At least I didn't get that conviction. So what is it? At that one moment, our soul leaves this body, and we are all attached to this body. What happens? We start crying. We start lamenting. We see that how many people die in our day-to-day lives. We have seen our death in our families. Are we happy? Of course, the devotee dying is a glorious thing. But here we are not talking about a devotee dying. He's an ordinary materialistic person who is dying. So people start lamenting. They cry. They want the soul to come back. Wake up again. Why are you sleeping so much? Wake up. See, the Kritaditi was praying. Oh, Harsha Shoka, why are you sleeping? It's a time for you to wake up and drink milk. Then why are you sleeping? This is how we cry in this material world. So then what happened? Once, what is the Jiva is telling here? Who is my father? Who is my mother? The Jiva is saying, once the soul leaves this body, it cannot identify with this body. Cannot identify. It's already left. And by the grace of Narada Muni, the Jiva was empowered to speak these words. So that Chitraketu is a devotee. So a devotee is going off the train. This is not expected from a devotee like Chitraketu. Even in the Canto 1, we have seen how Yudhishthira Maharaj and Sanjaya was greatly, greatly distressed by the departure of the Dhritarashtra. You can see here. Maharaj Yudhishthira, whose enemy was never born, performed his daily morning duties by praying, offering fire sacrifice to the sun god, and offering obeisances, grains. So, the duty of a householder, you can see that Yudhishthira Maharaj was exemplifying the Guruti of a Grihastha. Get up early in the morning, perform your prescribed duties, do the yajnas. So, in our case, it is Sankirta Yajna. So, take the blessings of the elders. But what happened when he wanted to, he was full of Maharaj Yudhishthira, full of anxiety, turned to Sanjaya. He could not find Yudhishthira. Sorry, he could not find Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, and Vidura. And he was very much overwhelmed. Where are these people? And he went to Sanjaya. So where is my well-wisher, uncle Vidura, mother Gandhari, who is very afflicted due to her son's demise? My uncle Dhritarashtra was also very mortified due to the death of all his sons and grandsons. Undoubtedly, I am very ungrateful. Did he therefore take my offenses very seriously and along with his wife, drowned himself in the Ganges? So we can see how Yudhishthira Maharaj and Sanjaya were lamenting the departure of the Dhritarashtra. So in olden days, that was a consciousness which they carried. Even sometimes you can see when a person is getting old, he knows that he is going to pass one day or the other, and he used to fast till the death. Old people, they used to fast till the death. They used to reduce the food. But today's day and age, we are not doing that. We are so much attached to these bodies. So Gurujan Prabhu in one of his lectures was saying that Maya's potency is so powerful. Maya's actions are so powerful that we start getting attached, especially when there is a maintainer and when there is a maintained. When there is a person who is maintained and there is a person who is maintainer. When these two people are there, we start attaching to them. Our attachment increases. Parents think that my child will protect me. My child will take care of me when I am old. Dependents, the spouse, children, they think that, oh, my father or my mother is taking care of me. Or on in other cases. So we think that we are maintaining, and old people are thinking that we are being maintained. If this person is not there, what is my fate? So, first of all, we are in this material world because we are envious of Krishna. So, we are thinking that we can attain Krishna, sorry, we can overcome Krishna. So, Krishna is the only one who is maintainer. So, the father and mother are the real maintainers. And are we the real maintainers? No, Jiva is saying, no, we are not the maintainers. Gurujan Prabhu is saying the same thing. So we think, because we think that we are equal to God, we think that we are the maintainer, we are the doer, we are the proprietors. And the being the maintained, one who is maintained, is left from this material world. The maintainer starts lamenting because his maintainership is lost. Or if the maintained, if the maintainer is lost, the maintained things laments. Oh, who is going to take care of me now? But Jiva is clearly saying over here, it is only the Krishna who is going to take care. So we have to think that all the relatives are sent by Krishna only. They are the different energies of the Krishna taking care of me. So the Prabhupada is directly mentioning over here that we have to transcend these temporary family nomenclatures. These are all nomenclatures. The son, the daughter, mother, father, all these things are nomenclatures which we have given to a particular body. So we have to transcend these three modes of the material nature. That's what is being given. The body created by the so-called father and mother actually has nothing to do with the so-called creators. This body is nowadays related to the creators, the mother and father. Is only the owner is the Krishna. Therefore, the
But
name
sometimes
Hare,
I feel even
Hare Krishna, you are speaking something.
Prabhuji,
Yes.
sometimes I feel that even Dasharath Maharaj was so attached
Mhm.
that he lamented, I mean, Rama's,
Yes.
exile.
Yes. But that is the devotee's way of attachment to Krishna. So devotee's way of attaching to Krishna is different from a materialistic attachment of with for their loved ones. So it looks externally, it looks both the same. Why why Dasratha was attached to Rama. But you have to understand that there are two things over here. From the materialistic point of view, Rama is teaching and Dasratha is teaching that in this material world, if you are attached, you are going to pay the consequences. But at the same time, at the devotee level and the Krishna level, they are devotees and Krishna. So the same attachment towards Krishna is beneficial. This Krishna consciousness. Did I answer your question, Mataji? Hare Krishna Sujata Mataji? Okay.
Correct.
So that was a different level. So giving a lesson at one level and the feeling of separation at the another level. So we sing what's called Sikshastakam, Asrishya Va Padaratam Kinastama. So love in the feeling of separation. That's what Dasratha was giving over there. So text number 5. Anyone would like to read the translation of purpose?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Yes.
Translation. In this material world, which advances like a river that carries away the living entity, all people become friends, relatives, and enemies in due course of time. They also act neutrally. They meditate. They despise one another, and they act in many other relationships. Nonetheless, despite these various transactions, no one is permanently related. Purport. It is our practical experience in this material world that the same person who is one's friend today becomes one's enemy tomorrow, becomes one's enemy tomorrow. Our relationship as friends or enemies, family men or outsider are actually the results of our different dealings. Chitraketu Maharaj was lamenting for his son who was now dead, but he could have considered the situation otherwise. This loving entity he could have thought was my enemy in my last life, and now having appeared as my son, he is prematurely leaving just to give me pain and agony. Why should he not consider his dead son his former enemy, and instead of lamenting, he jubilant because of an enemy's death? As stated in Bhagavad Gita 3.27, Prakriti Kriyamani Gunaha Karmani Sarvasaha. Actually, everything is happening because of our association with the modes of material nature. Therefore, one who is my friend today in association with the mode of goodness may be my enemy tomorrow in association with the mode of passion and ignorance. As the modes of material nature work, in illusion we accept others as friends, enemies, sons, or fathers in terms of the reaction of different dealings under different conditions. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. It is very clearly seen over here the distinction of the friends in the family. There's a friends and enemy, the duality. Sometimes we think one as a friend, one as an enemy, a male and a female. We see that a lot of duality in this material world. So Prabhupada explains that sometimes when the small children speak, they look so cute, isn't it? When the small child speaks, they look so cute. And especially when we speak about this philosophy, that philosophy attracts so many people. So you know the example of our own Kesari. So you can see Pawan Prabhu's son Kesari. So he speaks some philosophy in the YouTube, and you can see how many people are attracted by him. And you all know that one devotee, a child, Bhagavatam. So one child, he comes to the India Got Talent some show, and people were amazed by his way of answering how Bhagavad Gita was a manual for the people, and they're so amazed. So when the child speaks, the philosophy it attracts very much. So once I think one Prabhuji was one Brahmachari was saying this when Radhanath Maharaj was giving a lecture, and the lecture was completed, and those who are coming the first time, they were attracted. And after the class, when they met Maharaj, they were explaining. They were saying, "Your classes might be wonderful. Why? Because I can see the children over here playing the Krishna conscious way. The children there in the Chaupadi temple were playing in a Krishna conscious way. When they were playing that way, these newcomers were most attracted. So we can see how the child attracts a soul. So in the similar way, the jiva in the form of a 5-year-old boy was less than 5-year-old boy was speaking and trying to attract the heart of the Chitraketu and all the people who are assembled over here. And we can see over here the duality of the friendship and enemy. So today's friends will become tomorrow's enemy sometimes. In many a times, today may be your friend, but tomorrow he might be your enemy. If their ego is not satisfied, they become your enemy. So it says friends of the habits, isn't it? Friends of the same habit. If you have the common habits, we will be friends, isn't it? If our friends change, sorry, if our habits change, our friends automatically changes. Like for example, Kamsa. When Kamsa was so much was caring and loving for his sister, for his sister Devaki. So when Devaki was married to Vasudev, Kamsa personally wanted to ride the chariot. But what happened when Akashvani spoke? Kamsa became enemy. Then sometimes Kamsa becomes enemy. Sometimes Kamsa becomes a friend. When Vasudeva was speaking, Kamsa became is correct. So we can see that how Kamsa was his mind was fickling over here and there, favorable and unfavorable, favorable and unfavorable. So this is what happens in this material world. Not only that, there are some more examples. We can see when we all see cricket, we all saw cricket earlier. So when team gets a World Cup, people start enjoying like anything. The firecrackers, all the things. But when the same team, the next World Cup exists in the first round itself, then what happened? All the supporters who are there went to the each and every cricketer's house and started damaging their refugees, started damaging their houses, isn't it? So once they became the hero, and once they became the villain for the same thing. Recently, one movie what was about in Telugu was about to release, but that movie what happened to be a flop, and the fans tore the entire theater. They destroyed the theater. The fans themselves, not the external people. Fans are supposed to be glorifying their hero, but what happened because the movie failed? They were frustrated. So this is happening in our offices and everywhere. There are family, friends, and enemy. Once you are a friend, once you are a family. Sorry, you are an enemy. So because as we have discussed, because the root cause of our existence in this material world, what is root cause? It is the envy, the ego, which we are identifying with this body. So we all wanted to gratify our senses. We want to enjoy we have the enjoyment mentality. That's why we are in this material world. So if anything situation is favorable for my enjoyment mentality, I will consider that as favorable and people as a friendship. If my ego is not satisfied, if my enjoyment mentality is not satisfied, then I will treat them as my enemies. Once you stop gratifying your senses, you are out of this world. You're thrown out of this. Let me move. So, we all want glory. And what glories are we going to get? These glory are going to be temporary. These are not going to be permanent. We cannot be permanently glorified. We cannot tolerate glorification as well. If one person comes and starts glorifying you more and more and more and more, you start feeling uncomfortable. Because we are not Krishna. We are only part and parcels of Krishna. That's what's happening. That's why in this, especially in this Kali Yuga, when we want to correct others, we want to correct our children, we want to correct our other subordinates, but we do it in a mode of frustration. When my boss scolds, starts calling, why didn't you do this job? I come and start shouting at my own subordinates. Isn't it? Why didn't you do? My boss is scolding me. You should have done it. This is what is happening. So Chitraketu here is mentioned, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning that Chitraketu might have thought the soul would have been his enemy. He would have thought there is a choice that the soul might be his friend. So earlier, when the boy was born, he thought that the soul was his friend because he is gratifying his Chitraketu senses. But now Chitraketu might think that the soul is my enemy. Otherwise, how could he die and start torturing me? Sometimes when our enemies go to any extent to destroy to destroy us, isn't it? We see in the movies, they get destroyed. They don't care. The enemy should be destroyed. Similarly, Chitraketu might be thinking that this soul is my enemy. And because he is my enemy, he is torturing me by dying as a child. This is the result of these three modes of the material nature. So, Acharyas are saying, biologically, no one is related to anyone. We are not anyway related biologically. Of course, every one of us are related only by the mode of servant. So the last session we have seen in the Gachibowli Center by Lilananda Prabhu, he's speaking about the enemy and friendship, and how a devotee would have a loving relationship among the devotees only as servant of the servant of the servant. So sometimes we go to certain extent, our conditioning is so strong, we start identifying as my stool and their stool. Sometimes what happens in the office, in the public toilets, what happens is I don't think whether we should be explaining here, but it should be done. So when one person goes to the public toilet, so we are standing outside waiting for our turn, and the person inside finishes his job and comes out. The person going inside, what does he do? He ons the exhaust fan. He ons that. He opens the door so that the bad smell inside goes out, and then he can go and does his business. But whatever the person is doing, he is also leaving his tool, isn't it? Thinking, but the person doesn't think that his tool is thinking, because at that level also we are identifying that my stool and their stool. This is the nature how the bodily consciousness, the three modes of material nature attaches us to this duality. Anyone would like to read text number 6?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Padma. Yes.
Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Just as gold and other commodities are continually transferred from one place to another in due course of purchase and sale, so the living entity, as a result of his fruitive activities, wanders throughout the entire universe, being injected into various bodies in different species of life by one kind of father after another. Purport. It has already been explained that Chitraketu's son was his enemy in a past life and had now appeared as his son just to give him more severe pain. Indeed, the untimely death of the son caused severe lamentation for the father. One may put forward the argument, if the king's son was his enemy, how could the king have so much affection for him? In answer, the example is given that when someone's wealth falls into the hands of his enemy, the money becomes the enemy's friend. Then an enemy can use it for his own purposes. Indeed, he can even use it to harm its previous owner. Therefore, the money belongs neither to one party nor to the other. The money is always money, but in different situations, it can be used as an enemy of a friend. As explained in Bhagavad Gita, it is not by any father or mother that the living entity is given his birth. The living entity is a completely separate identity from the so-called father and mother. By the laws of nature, the living entity is forced to enter the semen of a father and be injected into the womb of the mother. He is not in control of selecting what kind of father he will accept. Prakritehe kriyamanani. The laws of nature force him to go to different fathers and mothers, just like a consumer commodity that is purchased and sold. Therefore, the so-called relationship of father and son is an arrangement of Prakriti or nature. It has no meaning and therefore it is called illusion. The same living entity sometimes takes shelter of an animal father and mother, and sometimes a human father and mother. Sometimes he accepts a father and mother among the birds, and sometimes he accepts a demigod father and mother. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore says, Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Bija. Harassed life after life by the laws of nature, the living entity wanders throughout the entire universe in different planets and different species of life. Somehow or other, if he is fortunate enough, he comes in touch with a devotee who reforms his entire life. Then the living entity goes back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, it is said, Janame Janame Sabe Pita Mata Paya, Krishna Guru Nahi Mile, Baja Hari E. In the transmigration of the soul through different bodies, everyone in every form of life, be it human, animal, tree, or demigod, gets a father and mother. This is not very difficult. The difficulty is to obtain a bona fide spiritual master and Krishna. Therefore, the duty of a human being is to capture the opportunity to come in touch with Krishna's representative, the bona fide spiritual master. Under the guidance of the spiritual master, the spiritual father, one can return home back to God. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. So it's a very instructive and a very straightforward way of explaining by His Divine Grace, His Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada. So it is very clear over here. The soul is independent. So just like I have a money, so you have a cash. So it doesn't permanently be in your hand. So you will purchase something or you will lose it. So what happens? The money in your hand gets transferred into another money. But what happens? We are attached to this money. Suppose suppose a person is selling his car. There's a car, he is selling it, and there is a deal happening. There is a customer who came and he wants to buy for maybe around 6 lakh rupees. But before the agreement is made, suppose before the agreement is made, a truck comes and crashes this car. And what happens? The customer takes away the 6 lakhs. I don't want to take your car, and he leaves. But what happened? The seller, the owner of the car thinks, oh, I have lost my entire money. My 6 lakhs is lost. My deal is lost. But suppose the same lorry crashes the car after the deal is done. Deal is signed. The money is transferred. The ownership is transferred to the new person. Then what happened? The earlier owner, Amaya, I'm so fortunate. It did not happen before the deal is happening. So what happened? Once the ownership is transferred to the new, the previous owner has no attachment towards this old car. Like the similar way, when when the soul is having this body, is owning this body, gives this body and goes into the new ownership of the body, it doesn't start attaching to the old body. Only the relatives who are attached to this body are facing this problem. But the soul doesn't get attached to the previous body. How many of us know what bodies did we take in the previous lives? Are we attached with that body? No, we are attached to this body, but I don't have any ownership of this another body. That's what Prabhupada is speaking all about. When this body, soul is going from one body, it's like commodity. So a commodity has a ownership, and this commodity gets a transfer of ownership. But what happens? The fortunate soul gets the association of a ब्रह्मांडे ब्रह्मिते गौण भाग्यवान जीवा Guru Krishna Prasade Bhai Bhakti Lata Age. So we know Sripad Adi Shankaracharya says Punarapi Jananam Punarapi Maranam Punarapi Janani Jatare Shayane Iha Samsare Bahudustare. Punarapi Jananam Punarapi Maranam. So we are all taking birth and we are all dying. Punarapi Janani Jatare Shayanam. We are taking the shelter of another womb of a mother. That womb of a mother might be human mother or any animal mother or a devata mother based on our karma. But whatever it may be, yah samsare bahudustare. This material world is dangerous place. Padam 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 nakesh. So who is a fortunate person? Fortunate person is not the one who gets mother and father. But in every life, we are getting mothers and fathers. Either a dog mother and dog father, or an animal mother, any other, or a human mother and father. The fortunate soul is one who gets the association of a bona fide spiritual master. That's why our spiritual life depends upon how we are pleasing our spiritual. Yasha prasada bhagavat prasada. The key to the spiritual life lies in the hands of a spiritual master. So every one of us, if we want to get progress in our spiritual life, we all have to take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. So if without spiritual master, you may chant any n number of rounds. You chant 192 rounds, but it doesn't going to get any result. So through the guru only we can access Krishna. And through the spiritual master may be your Diksha Guru, your Shiksha Guru, or the devotees around you. These are also gurus. Padrakshaka Guru, or then Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru. We have line number 3 gurus. All these 3 gurus are important. That's why Srila Prabhupada is mentioning over there. We all have to have attachment towards the Krishna's family. This satsang is a Krishna's family. We all have to get attached to this satsang. Come to the satsang regularly and hear from the senior Vaishnavas and implement in our life. We can see how much benefit we are going to get. That's what Srila Prabhupada is explaining over here. Any other one would like to read text number 7?
Hare Krishna. Prabhupada. Can I read?
Hare Krishna Velila. Yes.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. A few living entities are born in the human species and others are born as animals. Although both are living entities, their relationships are impermanent. An animal may refrain from remain in the custody of a human being for some time, and then the same animal may be transferred to the position of another human being. As soon as the animal goes away, the former proprietor no longer has a sense of ownership. As long as the animal is in his possession, he certainly has an affinity for it. But as soon as the animal is sold, the affinity is lost. Hare Krishna.
You can read the purport.
Okay. Purport. Aside from the fact that the soul transmigrates from one body to another, even in this life, the relationships between the living entities are impermanent, as exemplified in this verse. The son of Chitraketu was named Harshashoka, or jubilation and lamentation. The living entity is certainly eternal, but because he is covered by a temporary dress, the body, his eternity is not observed. Dehinosmin eta dehe kamaram evanam jara. The embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age. Thus, the bodily dress is impermanent. The living entity, however, is permanent. An animal is transferred from the one owner to another. As the animal is transferred from one owner to the another, the living entity who was the son of Chitraketu lived as his son for some time, but as soon as he was transferred to another body, the affectionate relationship was broken. As stated in the example given in the previous verse, when one has one commodity in his hands, he considers it his, but as soon as it is transferred, it becomes someone else's commodity. Thus, then one no longer has a relationship with it. He has no affection for it, nor does he lament for it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this is a continuation of the example what Prabhupada is explaining. So earlier we talked about the ownership transfer of the car. So here in this verse, it's explaining about the animals. So in olden days, there were only the animals like bullock carts, horses, everything. But those are replaced by the today's modern vehicles like cars, etc. So an analogy is the same thing. So you can see that body, if a soul is going from one body to another body, even in this body, we are transmigrating. Ehino asmin yata dehe kaumaram yamram jara tata dehantarastat dhiras tatra nauyati vasant jirnani yata vihaya. Isn't it? So the soul is passing from boyhood to old youth to old age. Then when it is no longer, this body is no longer useful, the old body is removed and it takes the new body. The one who is intelligent is not affected by this change. But you can see the changes. So externally, the things appears to be unchanging. So we think that yesterday was Saturday. It was similar kind of a thing. So yesterday was a holiday. We did some activities. Today is a holiday. We are having some holidays. Yesterday we had a Bhagavatam class. Today also we have a Bhagavatam class. Sometimes we go to the picnics, isn't it? With our children, we go to the picnics, to the lake and a place. But the lake it looks like it is same as last year. Last year the lake also looking the same. But today also the lake is looking like the same, isn't it? When you go out and see the towers, the buildings in your area, did they change? You don't seem to be changing. Similarly, are we thinking that our body is changing? We are forgetting this body is changing. But we are thinking that I am the same. Because you are the soul, the soul doesn't change. But that's the nature of the soul. But if you see externally, if you see your old photo, how much change it brought you, isn't it? We all change. We are not born with the same body. The body is changing. It's youth or it's old age. So this is what is happening in this duality. Though they are changing, we don't feel that they are changing because there is a gradual changes. So these gradual changes, when the change is happening, why I saying that no, there is no change. There is no change. You're still the same person, but actually there is a change. Time brings a change. Even our relationship changes our time according to our time, isn't it? So when when a husband and wife gets married newly, they are so much attracted. You go to honeymoon, they're so attracted to each other. Once they had it, then have a children. Father is focused on the child's education. Mother is focused on the child's nourishment. There sometimes it look like there's no relationship between husband and wife, isn't it? Because of the child, the love towards husband and wife is transformed into the love towards the children. The love exists, but it got transformed, isn't it? That even the relationship with our body is also changing. So we are born young. So when we are a youth, then there is a tough phase called old age, isn't it? Bhagavad Gita says it's a tough phase. Old age is a tough phase. Just like a relationship between the father and the son changes. Before the son gets a job, because the son is dependent for money on the father, his relationship was at one level. Once the son starts getting got their job, get earning, and he gets his own family, he starts relating with his father. I'm wondering, I'm independent, I'm this and that. Isn't it that relationship changed? Similarly, when during the old days, our relationship is also gets changed. So when you are in youth, we think that yes, I can control everything. Everything is in my control. Whatever I say, it happens. But what happens when the old age comes? When your grandchildren comes, they start neglecting all of us. Isn't it? When the old age comes, grandchildren start neglecting us. Tata, what do you know? Amoma, what do you know? You know nothing. They make you sit in the corner. Isn't it? So our strength gets reduced. We cannot be the same person again and again. We cannot think the same way again and again. We are all attached to this body. So here, Prabhupada, Brahmachari was explaining a nice analogy. So we have attachment towards our body, or we have attachment towards Krishna, isn't it? So if you are having attachment towards the body, and if you are also attached to Krishna, you are attached to both body and Krishna. This is called Sahajiya. Srila Prabhupada condemns this Sahajiya mechanism. You can never be attached to body and Krishna. It is false identification, complete bogus identification. You might be not be attached to the body. You are also not attached to Krishna. Then you are called a Mayavad. Srila Prabhupada also condemns this Mayavada philosophy. Second, third, you are attached to the body. You are not attached to Krishna. Then you are called a Karmi. Then you are a Karmakandi victim. So there is a gradual elevation. But if you are not attached to this body and you are attached to Krishna, that is called a devotee. Yoginam api sarvesham. So among all the yogis, my devotee is the supreme because he is attached only to Krishna. So what we should have? We should have the spiritual affinity towards this Krishna consciousness people, the devotees. Then that is only thing which is going to give us real happiness. If we are anyway attached to the body, we are not happy. So there are 9 stages of bhakti, isn't it? Adav sadhu sangha, bhajana kriya, shraddha. What is the 4th step? Anartha nivrutti. When anartha nivrutti, you cross anartha nivrutti, then you get asakti, then you get ruchi. When there is no anartha nivrutti, there is no asakti or ruchi. What is this anartha nivrutti? So removing all the anarthas. Then what is the anartha meaning? Anartha means which is meaningless. Anartha, no meaning, no usage. This material world has no meaningful life. If you are still attached to this material world, the 10 offenses of the holy name, you are still in the material consciousness, even after saying so many things on the Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna, we are maintaining the material relationships. Then we are offending the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So when you start aligning towards the spiritual association, then naturally our happiness starts blooming up. Real happiness starts coming out. Hare Krishna, Sujata Mataji, you want to read?
Yeah. I will read Prabhuji. And I just wanted to ask Prabhuji, that means all relations that we get, whether it is in the form of father, mother, husband, wife, are all predestined as per our karmas, right?
Yes. Yes, these are all whatever we are having in this world right now, everything is already predestined. Or you can also create new destiny. You are having free will. You have free will and destiny. So whatever has happened in your life, it is by destiny. And whatever is going to happen next is based on our free will. We have the choices we can make. Either I can be materially conscious or you can be a spiritually conscious. That's what we have to ensure.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Translation. Even though one living entity becomes connected with another because of a relationship based on bodies that are perishable, the living entity is eternal. Actually, it is the body that is born or lost, not the living entity. One should not accept that the living entity takes birth or dies. The living being actually has no relationship with so-called fathers and mothers. As long as he appears as the son of a certain father and mother as a result of his past fruitive activities, he has a connection with the body given by that father and mother. Thus, he falsely accepts himself as their son and acts affectionately. After he dies, however, the relationship is finished. Under these circumstances, one should not be falsely involved with jubilation and lamentation. I got my answer. Purport. When the living entity lives within the material body, he falsely thinks that he is the body, although actually he is not. His relationship with his body and his so-called father and mother are false, illusionary conceptions. Thus, these illusions continue as long as one is not enlightened about the situation of the living entity. Hare Krishna.
That's why we have to hear about the we have to hear thoroughly about, we read Bhagavad, Nityam Bhagavata Seya. All of our doubts, if our doubts are sincere, we'll get the definitely our answer in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad. These two books are sufficient for all of us. But the thing is, we have to have a sincere question. Tatvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevena. Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita will answer our questions. So, who is the best preacher for a karmi? So, we say that yes, Narada Muni, all these are the best preachers. Definitely, they are the best preachers. But for a karmi, death is the best preacher. What does Krishna say? If you don't identify me as Bhagavan, I will appear to non-devotees in the form of a death. Krishna is going to appear in the form of a death. So death is the best preacher. That's why in many of the houses, when a person dies, all the relatives will come together. For what? Not for having chit chat or not for a property disputes. To understand the reality that whatever, how many SFT, maybe 1600, 3000 SFT house we are having, nice comfortable bed, but ultimately we are going to have that 6 foot bamboo sticks together. That is the reality of life. The Narada Muni was an expert preacher who used the expert situation of the death to make Chitraketu to understand that this life is temporary. Now Chitraketu is understanding. He's a devotee and now he's trying and understanding that this material world is temporary. No, but we hear that Jivara Sarupa, Krishna, we are not this body, we are the souls. Theoretically, it's very wonderful. You can answer the question, anyone, that but I am the soul, I am the soul, I am the soul. But practicing it is not so easy. Isn't, are we practicing at the soul level? We are still at the body level. Yes, Krishna is saying in the Bhagavad Gita that you have to do swadharma. Because you are in this body, you have to do your swadharma. That is done. But our priority should be our sanatana dharma, the actions of the soul, which is nothing but Krishna consciousness. Are we chanting our 16 rounds attentively in the morning? Are we reading the Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam? Are we coming to the satsangs? Are we interested in to do this? We have to introspect ourselves. An introspective sage will introspect every day, or at least every Ekadasi, introspect ourselves. Am I progressing in my spiritual journey or not? So, it is due to the past karma only you are going to get the parents. Naturally, you are going to get, whether you is in a human life or whatever life, you are going to get the parents. But it is by our own choice. When we associate with the devotees, we are going to get the association of our guru. When you get a bona fide guru, start accepting and follow his instructions. That is a way you can go back to Godhead. We do not know how much karma we have, how much baggage we have. So thinking, can I negate this by positive, by doing good karma? Can I balance this negative karma? Some people will ask, what did I do in the whole, what did I do in the past life? Why am I suffering? Prahlad Maharaj did not question why this is happening to me. Why do bad things happen to good people? Prahlad did not answer question. But instead he was asking, when bad things happen to good people, how they react? Our consciousness now should be, how should we react to a bad situation? But in any sense, any way, we should not leave the lotus feet of the devotees of. If you are leaving Krishna consciousness, if you are leaving this chanting, if you are leaving this satsang, definitely the most unfortunate person are we only. Krishna, how much he has to do? He is aligning everything. He is making everything, Zoom to work, everything to work, Bhagavad Gita to work, Bhagavatam work, but we are not allowing this to work in our life. So we have to be blamed for that. Anyone would like to read text number 9?
Hare Krishna,
Yes,
Prabhuji.
yes, Samaran, yes.
Shall I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, ma'am.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Just a second. Translation, Prabhuji. I'm making it big. The living entity is eternal and imperishable because he actually has no beginning and no end. He never takes birth or dies. He is the basic principle of all types of bodies, yet he does not belong to the bodily category. The living being is so sublime that he is equal in quality to the Supreme Lord. Nonetheless, because he is extremely small, he is prone to be illusioned by the external energy. And thus he creates various bodies for himself according to his different desires. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Shall I start, Prabhuji?
Yes,
In
ma'am.
this verse, the philosophy of Achintya Bheda Veda, simultaneous oneness and difference is described. The living entity is eternal, means Nitya, like the Supreme Personality of God, personality of Godhead. But the difference is that the Supreme Lord is the greatest. No one being equal to to or greater than him. Whereas the living entity is sukshma or extremely small. The Shastra describes that the magnitude of the living entity is 1/10,000th the size of the tip of a hair. The Supreme Lord is all pervading. Andantarastha, yeah, I got it, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Andastarastha Paramanu Chayantarastham, relatively, if the living entity is accepted as the smallest, there should naturally be inquiry about the greatest. The greatest is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the smallest is the living entity. Another peculiar characteristic of the jiva is that he becomes covered by maya, atmaya, atmamaya gunaha. He is prone to being covered by the Supreme Lord's illusory energy. The living entity is responsible for his conditional life in the material world, and therefore he is described as Prabhu, the master. If he likes, he can come to this material world and he can if he likes he can return home back to Godhead. Because he wanted to enjoy this material world, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gave him a material body through the agency of the material energy, as the Lord himself says in Bhagavad Gita 18.61. Iswaraha sarva bhutanam hruddes. It's moving, Prabhuji. Hrudesa Arjuna Sthita Tistarti. Brahma, no. Brahmayan Sarva Bhutani Yantra. English, I'm not used to actually. Aradhani Maya. Yes, Prabhuji. Sorry, Prabhuji. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. Oh, Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. The Supreme Lord gives the living entity a chance to enjoy in this material world as he desires, but he openly expresses his own desire that the living entity give up all the material aspirations, fully surrender unto him and return home back to Godhead. The living entity is the smallest. Sukshma, Jiva Goswami says in this connection that the living entity within the body is extremely difficult for materialistic scientists to find, although we understand from authorities that the living entity is within the body is different from the living entity. Hare Krishna. Thank you,
So
Prabhu.
fortunately, by His divine grace, S. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, so whatever the materialistic scientists are trying to find is already given in the Bhagavad Gita. You are the soul, you are not this body, moving from this body to another body. So when this body is finished, you are going to get this. So it's also mentioned that there is a description of the Prabhu as called master. So we are also certain level of master. We are also certain Ishwaras. We are not Parameshwara. Ishwara, Parama, Krishna. So Supreme Lord is an Ishvara. The Atma, Paramatma, you can see that Vibhu, all the qualifications of this spiritual Supreme Soul and the Jivatma, we. So we are all the part and parcels of the same Krishna. So we are also Satchitananda Vigraha. We are also independent. But the difference is Krishna is bigger and we are the smaller. So it is we who can decide whether we are staying in this material world or we go back to Krishna. No other person can decide. So no other consequences. So externally, every situation might be not friendly. What did Prahlad Maharaj had? So his own father was trying to kill. Nobody was coming to rescue. What did Vibhishana had? If he was in the Ravana's place, surrounded by all the demons. Sometimes our external situation might be favorable. Sometimes our situation might not be favorable. But still we have to execute our devotional service. It is we who can decide. If we decide, Krishna will give us the necessary intelligence. Matta smritir jnanam apohanacha. Why? Because he is staying in our heart. So then only we can realize the Paramatma is in our heart. We say Krishna is everywhere as Paramatma. But God is within you and God is within me. Are we realizing that God inside of us? No. Because we don't want God in our life. Once we start surrendering to Krishna, we execute this Krishna conscious philosophy in whatever may the situation may be. The Krishna will empower each and every one to give us a direction so that we can go back to Krishna. So individually, we can never go back to Krishna. It is impossible for a tiny jiva to go back. We have to take the help of Krishna and his devotees. Then only we can go back. That's what he's saying here. Anyone would like to read text number 10? Any volunteers?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Vellama, yes.
Translation. For this living entity, no one is dear nor anyone is unfavorable. He makes no distinction between that which is his own and that which belongs to anyone else. He is one without a second. In other words, he is not affected by friends and enemies, well-wishers or mischief mongers. He is only an observer, a witness of different qualities of men. Purport. As explained in the previous verse, the living entity has the same qualities as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he has them in minute quantities because he is small particles, Sukshma, whereas the Supreme Personality, Supreme Lord is all-pervading and great. For the Supreme Lord, there are no friends, enemies, or relatives. For he is completely free from all the disqualifications of ignorance that characterize the conditioned souls. On the other hand, he is extremely kind and favorable to his devotees. He is not at all satisfied with persons who are envious of his devotees. As the Lord himself states in Bhagavad Gita 9.29, Samoham sarva bhuteshu namo dveshosti na priyaha e bhajanti tumam bhaktya maite teshu shapyaham. I envy no one, nor I am partial to anyone. I am equal to all. Whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend is in me, and I am also a friend to him. The Supreme Lord has no enemy or friend, but he is inclined towards a devotee who always engages in devotional service. Similarly, elsewhere in Gita 16.19, the Lord says, Tanaham dvisata kruran samsareshu naradaman shipam ajasaram asubham asrusvel eva yonishu. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are lowest among men, are cast by me into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. The Lord is extremely antagonistic towards those who are envious of his devotees. To protect his devotees, the Lord sometimes has to kill their enemies. For example, to protect Prahlad Maharaj, the Lord had to kill his enemy Hiranyakashipu. Although Hiranyakashipu attained salvation because of being killed by the Lord. Since the Lord is a witness of everyone's activities, he witnesses the actions of his enemies, of the enemies of his devotees, and he is inclined to punish them. In other cases, however, he simply witnesses what the living entities do and give the results of one's sinful or pious activities. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So if you can see this translation, everything, doesn't it look like the Bhagavad Gita? Whatever Krishna is saying in Bhagavad Gita, the same thing, Jivatma is speaking over here. So when you are preaching the message of Godhead, we have to preach the same essence what Krishna has presented to Arjuna. Otherwise, what happens if you see, is here the question is Krishna partial or impartial? In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, so in 9.29, he says, Sammoham sarvabhuteshu name devsayo asti na priyaha. I envy no one, nor I am partial to anyone. I am equal to all. Isn't it? Okay. So then, which volume? It is a sixth canto, sixth volume of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavad, sixth canto. So, Sammoham sarvabhuteshu name dvesho asti na priyaha. I envy no one, nor I am partial to anyone. I am equal to all, but he's saying, Krishna is saying, I am well-wisher for everyone. Whether you are a devotee or not a devotee, we are all equal in the eyes of Krishna. Isn't it? Then why did, you might be getting a question, why did Krishna kick us into this material world? Sometimes you see, when you get a hard kick, you fall on the ground. And sometimes you lose consciousness. You go into a coma for a certain period of time. But what happened by Krishna's kick? Krishna's kick is a transcendental kick. So when he kicked us, what happened? We forgot our identity. We are in a deep coma. We forgot who we are, and we are starting identifying with the body. And why did Krishna has to kick all of us in this material world if he is not partial? This happens when one reads a Bhagavad Gita not from the parampara. If you see the Bhagavad Gita, now in this Bhagavad Gita, so same 9.29, he says, I am not partial. But immediately in the next two lines, what he's saying? Ye bhajanti tu maam bhaktya mai te teshu chapyaham. He's saying, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend in me, and I am also a friend. Now he's showing some partiality. If we are not reading the Bhagavad Gita in the parampara, people get confused. He is asking to surrender, and he is kicking all of us. And he's saying, I am not a partial. And now he's saying he is partial. He is not partial to anyone, but at the same time, he is partial. This is called Achintya Veda Aveda Tattvam. So for a non-devotee, he will give the pious results, or he will give the impious results. You are the doer, so you are supposed to get the results. But for a devotee, is not like that. Devotee, he takes care of his well-wisher. Even it happens in our life. We are not partial to anyone, but who is starting to surrender, who is coming to Krishna conscious philosophy, to our satsang, we take extreme care of them so that their bhakti gets increased, isn't it? So exclusive care will be given to a sincere devotee, and care is also given to a non-devotee, but that is not impartiality. So Krishna has given the role of a mother to Putana in his spiritual world. So those who got delivered from those who were killed in the battlefield got the at least heavenly planets. Krishna awards the benefits according to way we approach. That is what Krishna is saying. So based on our approach, Krishna is going to reciprocate. That is not impartiality. Hare Krishna, Praveen Rathod, text number 11, you can read. Hare Krishna, Praveen Rathod, are you there? If not, any other would like to take off this. Yes,
Hare
Praveen.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Translation. The Supreme Lord, Atma, the creator of cause and effects, does not accept the happiness and distress that result from fruitive actions. He is completely independent of having to accept a material body. And because he has no material body, he is always neutral. The living entities, being part and parcel of the Lord, possesses his qualities in a in a minute quantity. Therefore, one should not be affected by limitations. Purport. The concerned soul has friends and enemies. He is affected by the good qualities and the fault of his position. The Supreme Lord, however, is always transcendental because he is the Iswara and Supreme Controller. He is not affected by duality. It may therefore be said that he sits in the core of everyone's heart as the neutral witness of the cause and effects of one's activities, good and bad. We should also understand that Udasina, neutral, does not mean that he takes no action. Rather, it means that he is not personally affected. For example, a court judge is neutral when two opposing parties appear before him, but he still takes action as the case warrants. To become completely neutral, indifferent to material activities, we should simply seek shelter at the lotus feet of the supreme neutral person. Maharaj Chitraketu was advised that remaining neutral in such trying circumstances as the death of one's son is impossible. Nevertheless, since the Lord knows how to adjust everything, the best course is to depend upon him and do one's duty in devotional service to the Lord in all circumstances. One should be undistributed by duality, as stated in Bhagavad Gita. Karmani eva Sarvji. Karmani arste ma phalesu kadachina ma karma phala hetuvur mate sangos astava kramani. You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself to be the cause of the result of your activities and never be attached to not doing your duty. One should execute one's devotional duty, and for the results of one's action, one should depend upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you so much. So here it is explaining about this. It is continuing example of how the soul is minute as compared to the Supreme Soul. Supreme Soul is Parama Ishvara. We are also certain Ishvaras. So we should understand that Udasina, neutral. Udasina means neutral. So just like a judge is neutral. So he is equal to both parties. But when the judgment comes, he awards punishment to one person and he rewards other person. It's based on the judgment. But he is not attached to each and every the two parties or to the judgment. Similarly, the soul, sorry, Paramatma within your heart is looking like a judge. Upadesha Anumantasha. So he is a overseer of our activities. Then what he is doing? He is judging our activities. So based on our actions, we are going to get the results. Then how should we do? So we should be in this mode of surrender to Krishna. How karmanya vadekaraste. So you have the right to do your actions, but we don't have the. We are not entitled for the results of our action. We are one portion of the one portion, but there is Paramatma sitting. There are other things factors which is coming into play that has an effect on the results. So by this all knowledge, what happens? We want to try to see Krishna. So how many of you want to like to see Krishna? In each and everyone, we all wanted to see Krishna. Where is God? In Srimad Bhagavatam, if you see the same different devotees see Krishna in different circumstances. It's a unique way. Prahlad sees Krishna in one way. Bali Chakravarti sees in one way. Amrish Maharaj sees. So each and every devotee has a unique way of his interaction with Krishna, isn't it? So meeting Krishna is not the end of his spiritual journey. So we think that by chanting the holy names, we do all the exit bhakti, we go and we go back to Godhead, we do nothing. No. So there is service even in the Goloka. So in this material world, we are being trained to execute service, to engage in cooperatively with the devotees, so that we do the same thing in the spiritual journey, spiritual life. Once one Prabhu has asked to Srila Prabhupada, if I chant and go back to Krishna, isn't it lost? When Krishna, as Prabhupada said, the goal of chanting Hare Krishna is to chant more and more Hare Krishna. So if you want to understand whether you are chanting Hare Krishna properly or not, are we, then parameter is, am I interested to chant more and more rounds? Don't stop at 16 hours. Go beyond that. If you have free time, go beyond 16 hours. We should not leave the chanting back. Nityam Kirtanaya. Kirtanaya Sadahari. We have to do Kirtanaya only. Always. So, Chitraketu, so what did it make him to go back to Krishna? It is the association of Narada Muni. It is a death that made him to see Krishna. So he saw Krishna in this mode of death. So each and every unique person. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur once said, don't try to see Krishna. Let Krishna see you by your activities. Suppose if you want to go and meet a cricketer, naturally, suppose if you want to meet Dhoni, you are so excited. But Dhoni is not excited because he someday or the other he meets some kind of a fan getting a signs autographs. For you, it is excitement. But when you go back to Krishna, it is excitement for you, definitely. For all of us, it is excitement to meet Krishna. So many in lifetimes I have heard about Krishna is like a blue boy, all these things. Now I am going to see him personally. Aren't you excited? Yes. But is Krishna excited? Yes, Krishna is also excited to meet each and every one. Not that he is saying that daily, it is my daily business. Some people are coming to the spiritual life, and new person is coming. This is also a new thing. This is also an old thing. But Krishna is not thinking like that. Krishna is super excited to meet all of us, in each and every one of us. Then what we have to do? We have to execute the Krishna conscious way. Don't be attached to anything. Don't be even attached to the services which you are rendering. If you are attached to services, we will be in this material world again. So that's what karmanya adhikaraste. So do your duties. Whatever duties you have have right to do the duties, but leave the rest, everything to Krishna. Sri Sukadeva Goswami continued, when the conditioned soul or jiva in the form of the Maharaj Chitraketu's son had spoken in this way and then left, Chitraketu, the other relatives of the dead son, were all astonished. Thus, they cut off the shackles of their affection, which was due to their relationship with him, and gave up their lamentation. After the relatives had discharged their duties by performing the proper funeral ceremonies and burning the dead child's body, they gave up the affection that leads to illusion, lamentation, fear, and pain. Such affection is undoubtedly difficult to give up, but they gave it up. So when we are attentively hearing this Srimad Bhagavatam, when you are doing this Krishna conscious policy wholeheartedly, we also can remove the illusion, lamentation, fear, everything is possible. Queen Kunti's co-wives who had poisoned the child were very much ashamed and where they lost all their bodily luster. While lamenting, O king, they remembered the instructions of Angira and gave up their ambition to bear children. So there are certain austerities which you have to do. So we have to do the four regulatory principles, all the things. So we also have to do we have to leave some certain things. Following the directions of the Brahmanas, they went to the bank of Yamuna where they bathed and atoned for the sinful activities. Thus enlightened by the instruction of the Brahmanas, Angira and Narada, King Chitraketu became fully aware of the spiritual knowledge. As an elephant became free from a muddy reservoir of water, King Chitraketu came of the dark well of the family life. King bathed in the Matra of Yamuna, and according to the prescribed duties, he offered oblations to the water of the forefathers and demigods. Very gravely controlling his senses and mind, he then offered his respects and obeisances to the sons of Lord Brahma, Angira, and Narada Muni. So, in essence, it boils down to the only the five things Angas again. Associate with the devotees, serve them. Second, chant the holy names of Hare Krishna attentively, especially in the Brahma Muhurta time. Read books like Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavad here and here. Go to the dhams and do deity worship. This is what the essence of this lokas is all about. Hare Krishna, thank you so much. Hare Krishna Silpamaji, thank you so much for giving this opportunity. Now this forum is open for all of you to share your what realizations do you have? Any questions? Any chastisement which you want to do? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare
My daughter got married. It was a love marriage. And then when I visited my daughter's in-laws place, I was really taken aback because completely they are in tamasic mode, eating lot of non-vegetarian and I mean intoxication and all. And I literally wept in front of Krishna that the power of association. And as a mother, I always thought that the soul has to rise on a higher level. And I don't know what to do. I've just been praying to Krishna and I want them to come to Krishna consciousness, but it's very difficult because at the moment I try to, tell there is some kind of, rejection. I don't know how. So
instead of asking them to reject whatever they have, just ask just to chant Hare Krishna. Somehow we have a duty. Slowly we can do it. Is you have to check what is good for what is a good way. But give Hare Krishna mantra. It's automatically someday or the other we'll pray that the Krishna consciousness reaches to their home. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
actually, they stay so close to our Attapur branch, Prabhuji. Their house is very close to Attapur branch. So I have thought that, I may call them. Probably one Sunday I can tell that I'm sponsoring something. You all come over, have prasadam, and probably that would be one of the ways for them to, bring to the temple.
We can try all the possible ways.
Yes. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
But don't try to disturb their consciousness. It should be very smooth.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Anyone else like to add some points to the? Sure, please, sir. Vara Prabhu, Nagin Prabhu, Padma Mataji.
Hare
Only
Krishna,
there Govind Prabhu.
Prabhuji. It was
Yes.
really wonderful, Prabhuji. The way you explained is very clear and very much practical examples you have given, comparing with cricket, all these things, and it's very catchy. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, you have stopped at 16th, right, Prabhuji? 15th sloka.
Yes, okay, yes, Mataji.
15th.
Next time it is 17th.
So you have stopped at 16th. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
So I'm speaking whatever I am hearing from the spiritual masters, all the brahmacharis. I'm speaking like a parrot. But I pray at your lotus feet that one day this parrot-like mouth can see some realization and start applying it in our life. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, all of you. Hare Krishna. Usha Mataji, you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, Prabhuji, really it was wonderful. Prabhuji, you were giving, as Mataji said, practical examples of going to washroom also. We always think like that only. And even I thought, this is really true, Prabhuji. We think as if we came from somewhere else, some other planet. Really, Prabhuji, thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Hare, thank you so
For
much. Please
making
pray.
my eyes also open. Thank you so much, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Please pray for me as well, Mataji.
Sure, Prabhuji, sure.
Thank you so much. If there are no questions, can we stop it here?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji.
One doubt, or I don't know whether it is a silly question or good one. This one I got. See, soul is permanent. That is, there is no death or birth for it.
Yes.
So, how does if there, just like for example, if there are 100 souls, it will be 100 souls now also. How can the population can increase?
Okay. How can the population? This is a standard question, Mataji. So how does the population is increasing? There are different ways of looking at it. One is for sure that the souls are never lost, never created, or never destroyed. The total number of souls in Krishna's creation is always constant. Sometimes, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come here 500 years back, and this is the golden age of Kali Yuga, and he wants to reclaim as many human lives, as many souls as possible. And in this human body only, it is possible for us to take this bhakti. And by the fortune of Sri Chaitanya Prabhu, many of the animals might be taking the birth of human beings. There are so many animals, they are extinct. How they are extinct? Because I think they are coming to the human birth. That way you can see human population is increasing, is one way. Second way, all these population are coming into one point. If entire Hyderabad comes to Gachibowli, what is the situation of Gachibowli? The population of Gachibowli is increasing, isn't it? Today, the population of the cities are increasing because of the various technological developments, all these things. And the population in the towns and villages are decreasing. We are not seeing that. And we are seeing the increase in the population in the cities as well.
Yeah,
Did I answer
Prabhuji,
your
even I feel that if there is life on other planets, maybe some souls must maybe
Yes.
coming from that planet to this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We cannot say that only from in this planet only is happening. It can come from the another planet as well.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can I add one point, Prabhuji?
Yes, sure.
Our Bal Govind Prabhuji always says while chanting, all these we say like ants or any creatures around us, they also listen to this Hare Krishna mantra, and they also get elevated to another means next birth. They will also get more conscious this thing. Like we can take like which one means like birds or some other like cow to a man or woman, like human being, like that, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Like that also population number
Yes,
increases. Hare
absolutely. And
Krishna.
anyone should come to this human form of body, then only this is the junction. If from this body only you have to go.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Right? There is a base.
Prabhuji,
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes,
I just, I don't know, it's again a very weird question. Is there age to soul as there is age to body? I also wonder, like sometimes, probably based on karma, the age is given. Some people die so young, some people, dies, in old age. But is there a age to soul, or it's only when the soul enters the Goloka Dhamam, there is mukti?
So soul is all sanatana. Soul is always eternal. There was no time. There is no creation. There is no time. Time influence on the soul. When there is no time influence on the soul, there is no age for the soul. The age is only for this body. So in this material world, time factor is falls on the body. So when there is a time, there is a start and end. So there is a start and end for this body, but not for the soul. Soul is always eternal in time. You cannot define the age of this. Did I answer your question, Mati?
So there is like when there is mukti, the soul goes to Golok Dham, but then the soul is mukti.
Yes, when it is going to go Vaikuntha and Goloka, then only it becomes satisfied. Karma karma cha medevyam goveti tatvata tektva dehan puna janmena ayati matmeti soarjina. So once you go back here to Vaikuntha, there is no coming back.
So I feel like Surdas, Mirabai, probably are they there or they have merged with God, or I don't know, probably.
So all these things, all these people are actually pure devotees in the line of disciplic succession. One who is a pure devotee in a bona fide sampradaya, there is no question of merging. There are 5 ways of 5 Sayujya, Samipya, Sarupya. The devotee doesn't seek for merging into God. It's a hellish planet. I don't remember his name. Acharya is saying it's like a hellish for the devotee. But for a Jnani, the Jnani's goal is to merge into Krishna, merge into Brahman. But a Karmi's goal is to go to the higher planetary system up to the level of heavens. But it's a devotee who always strives for the service of Krishna. Mama Janmani Janmanishware Bhavatad Bhakti Rahaitu Kichai. So, for a devotee, service is the most important. Soul is always active. It always wants to render something.
Very nice.
Correct. Thank you so much. So it's already 9 o'clock. We'll stop it here.
Hare
Hare Krishna Dandavat Pranam. Thank you all for giving me this wonderful association. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna
Thank you.
Hare
Prabhuji,
Krishna
Dandavat Pranam.
Prabhuji.
Thank you so
Hare
much.
Thank you.
Krishna.
Thank you. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you all
Krishna
for
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Excellent class.
Thank you so much.
I'll end the session here.